Can anyone jump into any exercise program? What are the things you should consider? What about that person who was told by his doctor that you have to start exercising because you have a heart condition? Okay, so those of you who have joined the new gym, the CrossFit gym, you would have filled in a questionnaire called the PowerQ that assesses your risk or your readiness for starting an exercise program. So things will be taken into account like, do you have an existing heart disease? Have you ever fainted before? Okay, do you have any physical disabilities or limitations? And that will help to determine how ready you are, if you are ready, and if you can go into a high intensity program or first need to do a moderate intensity program, developing up, building up slowly to a more high intensity program. Okay, so that you don't put an unnecessary shock of stress on your heart or on any system of your body. So what do you do if you fill in the PowerQ and this thing gives you a high score and says you are not ready to start exercising? You just leave it and go on from there. Okay, a good intermediate activity to get yourself ready is just a brisk walking program, which can go into a slow jogging program, and then you can join a more high intensity program at a specific gym or institution. What we are more interested in, and this is also important for the exam, make sure you understand all these concepts well enough so that you can also help someone that crosses your path with it. Why do so many people drop out of exercise programs? Why do so many people start a program at the beginning of the year and by March or by May, many people have dropped out already? One reason for that, and it sounds simple, but it is common and it has a large effect, is the all or nothing thinking. So you may think, I haven't exercised last week, so I've already fallen behind on my program. I've already failed. Okay, it's no use for me to start again. Instead of thinking, I've missed last week's session, so let me return to the program as soon as possible. Okay, but it's easy to judge ourselves very quickly and be hard on ourselves for the few mistakes that we have made, and then rather drop out than handling it and going on. Another reason that I've seen a lot is people really push themselves hard when they start an exercise program. Okay, it's not bad to push yourself, and it has its benefits, but it's not necessary to train at 80 or 90% of your maximum intensity to reach your health and psychological benefits. So people push themselves so hard that they don't enjoy the sessions the first month or 2 months. And because they really don't enjoy it, it is hard, they stop doing it and they drop out. What is more important between the intensity of your training and between the frequency? So what's more important between pushing yourself either 70% or 90%, or between training once a week or 5 times a week? Okay. For health and well-being benefits, the frequency is more important than the intensity. So especially those days where you don't want to get up, when you don't feel like exercising, rather go put in a short, moderate session. Get past the warm-up instead of leaving the session out completely. In addition, overdoing exercise also gives you the injury risk, which will put you out, depending on what type of injury it is, but can really put a spike in your progress and put you out for 2 or 3 weeks. Alright, so how do we challenge that all or nothing thinking? And this is a component similar to the cognitive therapy that we did. Is pinpoint those specific thoughts and write them down. The thoughts that you have when you don't want to exercise, like I'm really not in the mood, or it doesn't help, or it's so hard. Pinpoint those thoughts, write it down, and then dispute it. Okay, how can I change this thought to make it more true, or to make it more positive or more constructive? For example, you might think, every time that I start an exercise program, I failed. 3 times already, it's no use for me to start again. Or you can change it to, every time I start a new program, I'm one step closer to maintaining it. Every time I start it, I get a bit further. Right, or I just don't have time to exercise. My schedule is so busy, I have so many responsibilities. Okay, how can you dispute that? It is true for many people. How can you change that? You can say, I can make a little bit of time for myself to exercise because I deserve it. Or I can make a little bit of time because that's how important it is. Now there are different types of motivation people use while exercising. Okay. It can be divided into intrinsic and extrinsic. Extrinsic is your rewards like the health benefits, like the appearance benefits, someone exercising to look good so that you can get a boyfriend. That's extrinsic rewards. Okay. Intrinsic rewards is what you do because of the good feeling you get, because you enjoy it. You do that activity because you want to do it, not considering any other effect or reward for it. So what people can do is improve their awareness and start to pinpoint their specific intrinsic rewards. That's any good feeling you get while exercising. So you can be aware of when is my endorphin rush coming while you're exercising. After that first 10 minutes, start to become aware. When am I going to start to feel good? Okay, or when am I going to achieve that sense of mastery or that sense of identification with I'm a healthy person or I'm a great athlete? When are you going to get that feeling? That is an intrinsic reward. How can you use these intrinsic rewards type of feelings? A very common thought in the morning or whenever you have to go exercise is, I really don't want to, I'm not in the mood, it's not going to feel good. Okay. That goes together with feelings of guilt later during the day or later during the week when you did not exercise. So it's a short relief for not having to exercise with a very long or more permanent feeling of guilt for not exercising. Okay, so compare that to a very short, I have to push myself to get past the warm-up in order to get to a good feeling, or I have to push myself through a bad feeling of exercising. But you get a long-term or a longer feeling afterwards of improved well-being, of sense of mastery, and of improved health. You can also say, I know I'm not in the mood, I know it's not going to feel good to start warming up or to go to the track or to the road or wherever you are exercising. But you can do that keeping in mind that it's going to take 10 minutes before I start feeling good, or it's going to take just a warm-up before I start waking up and start getting into the rhythm. Another helpful hint is to make exercise part of your routine, to establish it very specifically so that you know, okay, every day at 6 o'clock, this is what I'm going to do, so that you don't have to decide when you get up at 5:30 or whenever, am I going to exercise or not? Or after class, am I going to exercise or not? But you know, this time of day, this is what you're going to do, and that makes it easier to maintain. Something to help you not to skip exercise when you don't feel like it. Okay, a wise person said, great things are never achieved on emotion, but on a decision. So the emotions aren't going to help you every time you want to exercise. You're going to feel bad. But do it based on the decision where you want to be. Why does it help to have a workout partner? Why is it easier for some people to exercise with someone else? So firstly, it is a place where you can get some positive social interaction. And secondly, it takes your attention away from yourself. In sports psychology, you can dissociate your attention from inside your body to something outside of yourself. So instead of focusing on how tired I am or how bad this feels, you focus on the environment or on someone else, and that makes it easier. What are the risk situations in which it is easy to stop your exercise routine or easy to lapse back. It will be different for different people, but common ones are the weather, cold weather, wet weather. So if you can identify that beforehand, you can make a decision on what you're going to do when it is cold or when it is wet, or when you go away, when you go home during the holidays, or when you're not close to your normal place of exercise. Okay, identify the situation beforehand and prepare a plan of what are you going to do. Are you going to stop for a week or two? If you decide to do that, then you don't have to feel guilty about not exercising for that period. Or you can decide to change your program, change your routine, use bodyweight exercises, or do jogging and running while you are at home and not at varsity when you are using the gym. Right, lastly, some people experience, or many people experience positive stress or flow when they do their exercise, physical activity, or commonly in some social or team sports. So that's when you lose yourself in the activity, in the running, or in the gymming, in the training, in the game of tennis, so much that you forget about everything around you. It's just you and the activity. Okay, and you forget about what time it is, you forget about time passing by. Suddenly you see, wow, an hour has already passed.
When you exceed your comfort level, say by running for about 30 minutes at 80% of your maximum heart rate, specialized cells secrete two mood modifiers. These include endorphins, which are opioids, and anandamide, which is similar to THC, the active ingredient in marijuana. Your blood carries the two chemicals to your blood-brain barrier, which is the gatekeeper to your brain cells. Anandamide crosses easily, but endorphins are large, and few make it in. No problem though, your brain also produces endorphins. The two mood boosters are now tapped into your central nervous system, where they limit the signaling power of pain sensors called nociceptors that spread out from your spinal cord. As a result, you don't realize how much your legs are burning. The endorphins downshift your brain's prefrontal and limbic regions, which regulate your emotion and motivation. You begin to feel calm and comfortable. Afterward, euphoria may kick in. Anandamide triggers a release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that contributes to lust, pleasure, and addiction. It also binds to cannabinoid receptors in your brain's pleasure circuit, where it sends bliss vibes through your brain for minutes or even hours. And no intense munchies.
If you can achieve that positive state, it gets much easier to maintain your exercise workout. To the point where some people even get addicted to running and to jogging. Alright, thank you. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask out loud. Just also type it in an email and send it to me or Mr.